Welcome to my free reading training. I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. It means that you are taking control of your child's reading journey. And for those of you meeting me for the first time, I'm Jasmine Bassey, a UK qualified primary school teacher with over a decade of global teaching experience, a teacher trainer, and an expert in early literacy. I've also been featured on BBC Radio, BBC Bite Size, Net Mums, but more importantly, my groundbreaking work in the teaching of reading led to an invitation to number 10 Downing Street, where I met with the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, not once, but twice. During these meetings, we discussed the urgent need for reform in early literacy, and I was among the first to hear about the government's ambitious plans for radical change, including retraining early years staff to ensure they are fully equipped to set children up for a lifetime of success, a critical gap in many current settings. And this recognition from the UK government is a testament to the importance of what I've been advocating for years. The early years are pivotal. Did you know that during this time, a child's brain forms 1 million neural connections per second? And this rapid development makes the brain uniquely primed for language and literacy. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to lay the foundation for lifelong learning. But unfortunately, what I hear a lot is they'll learn when they're ready. But that simply isn't true. The 0 to 5 window is when children are most ready to learn. And it is our responsibility to build the foundation so they can continue learning exponentially. By wiring the brain properly from day one, we set our children up for a lifetime of success. The good news, you don't have to figure this out alone. I have spent my career transforming research into practical, accessible strategies for parents, and the methods I've developed have helped thousands of children worldwide, including my own daughters who are both reading with confidence by age 3. And today I'm going to share these methods with you. But let's get something straight. No 2-year-old or 3-year-old needs to know how to read. But reading isn't just a skill, it is a gateway to the classroom and, of course, the entire curriculum. When a child begins school with strong reading foundations, their inner dialogue says, I can do this. And that confidence shapes their mindset for a lifetime. Conversely, when children struggle early, self-doubt creeps in, and it's far easier to prevent this problem than to fix it later. The first 5 years of life are critical because children learn faster and more effectively during this time than they ever will again. And this misconception that they'll learn when they're ready risks missing the prime opportunity to develop foundational skills during this period of rapid brain growth. But good news, teaching your child to read early is not only simpler than you think, it's incredibly fun. But before we dive into my proven methods, let's address a few common mistakes that can unknowingly hinder your child's progress. And firstly, the misconception that children must sit still to learn. This is widespread, and maybe you've even set up a cute learning station with table and chairs, but here's the truth. Children learn best when they are free to move, and movement is not a distraction, it's a tool. Research shows us that incorporating movement into lessons boosts engagement and understanding. When we stop making a table and a chair the criteria for learning, we see incredible results in how children engage and how they feel about learning. Including standing and whole body movements in the teaching of reading isn't just fun and games. It's a strategic approach designed to captivate young children, excite them to learn, and lay an incredible foundation for cognitive growth. And these activities stimulate brain function, enhance memory, and make the most of the critical 0 to 5 developmental window. Another critical error that I see all the time up and down the country and globally, and unfortunately I see teachers making this mistake all the time, usually through lack of training. But they're teaching children to memorize whole words that don't conform to that first layer of code. So when we're teaching children that A makes that A sound, well, it can also make an sound, like at the end of camera. And we should be teaching children the reading code, so they're not forced to keep thousands of words in their head memorized. They can just learn a handful of codes and apply those. And let me explain what I mean in a bit more detail. So the words on the screen here are words that are often taught by memorization in the UK and globally, but instead we should be teaching children this, where these words all end in a vowel. And they are open syllable words because there is not a consonant on the end closing it in. And because it's not closed in, because this vowel is open, it's going to make its long sound. E, he, sh, e, she, w, e, we. So we can just tell children, if you see a vowel and it is an open syllable word, we know it's going to make its long sound. If it is closed in by a consonant, it's going to make a different sound. Hem, sh, d, shed, w, t, wet, t, met, b, d, bed. And this is so important, and my reading courses are built around teaching children this code as they move through the reading journey. The next mistake is one that I see more parents making, and it is when they're adding an sound at the end of a pure letter sound. And let me explain what I mean. So for the letter M, it makes a sound, but often I hear that pronounced as m. The letter T makes a t sound, very short and very crisp. And instead I hear lots of parents say t. Same for S. S is the pure sound. S is the schwa sound. F makes a f sound, but I hear it often as f. And why is this so important to get right? Well, let me explain to you on the other slide. So here we've got some words. We've got the word mat. And if you have taught your child the sounds with the schwa at the end, and this is really common because as millennials we were taught this schwa sound, then this is what happens. When they start to break that word down into its sounds, they're going to go m, a, t. And when they blend that together, it's going to say mu'ata. And the next error is teaching your child the alphabet song. And I get it, it is absolutely everywhere. And we all need 5 minutes to load the dishwasher or do a bit of laundry. And you think, I'll pop that on YouTube. It will buy me 5-10 minutes. They're getting some sort of learning out of it. But the problem with the alphabet song is that it is teaching children the letter names and not the letter sounds. So when your child comes to read and they're reading a word like this, for example, and we've taught them the letter names, they're going to approach it like this. S-A-T, S-A-T, S-A-T. There's no way that you can get the word sat from using the letter names, and that's why it's so important that we don't teach them initially. That will come much further down in the reading journey, but also they will pick that up as they go along without you having to really specifically teach it, and it is hindering the journey. So if you're doing that, please stop. And that was probably a lot to take in. And I know that when it comes to teaching reading to your child, you are full of enthusiasm and you absolutely want the best for them. But it is so easy to feel confused, overwhelmed, and unsure about where to focus your efforts. The way that we were taught to read at school is so different from how we're teaching it now that you might feel that you lack the skills, the knowledge to support your child effectively, or you're going to fear that you're teaching them the wrong thing. And this is where the fun phonics method comes in. It pulls everything you need together in a simple but effective way, giving you the tools to feel confident that you can absolutely teach your child to read. And in this next part of the session, you are going to gain a very clear understanding of what the Fun Phonics method is and how you can use it to either get your child reading or transform their reading at home. And we'll also explore the key foundational skills needed to read and the first steps to teaching reading at home. You can start using this method and developing these skills at home from as early as 18 months. And at the end of this video, you will receive an exclusive offer to grab 75% off my Readiness for School program and give your child child the strongest start in that critical 0 to 5 window. But let's get into what the Fun Phonics method is. It is a 3-part system that works together to ensure reading success. And the first part of that is engage. We have to engage our children into wanting to learn, and we do that through sensory play and movement and interactive activities. The next part that we must have is a clear structure. We need to ensure that this first bit of learning is building the foundations, and this next bit of learning is building on what we've just taught them. And that essentially is what I do for you in my reading courses. I have structured them in the absolute perfect way that aligns with the science of reading to ensure that all of that happens beautifully. And finally, we have got drip, drip. So this is basically about, instead of saying I've got 35 minutes on a Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do loads of stuff with my child then, what I want you to do instead is to focus on 5 or 10 minute bite-sized chunks throughout the week. 3 or 4 times, I promise you it's going to see much better results than your 35-40 minutes on a Sunday afternoon. So this is the really exciting bit. I'm going to take you on a journey now of the reading process, so where we start and how we start here and move all the way through to reading our very first sentences. And if you've got a child aged around 18 months, this is where you want to start beginning, is the blending section. So blending is where we start. These 2 resources are from my various reading courses, and let me explain what's going on. So here we've got a picture of a shirt, and you'll see underneath that we have got 2 lines and a dot. Now, when you see a line, that means that there are 2 or more letters making 1 sound. And when you see a dot, that means that there is 1 letter making 1 sound. Now, we are not teaching this to children in those early stages, but the visual representation here is really key, because when we move on to this later in the reading journey, we are laying unconsciously those foundations here, and we see fast track results later on. So that is why you're going to see lines and dots. But this is how you would work with this. So we've got a shirt. 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 You can use these cards to help your child understand that these words are built up of different sounds. So your child will go, oh, this is a boat. B-O-T. Boat. Can they separate that picture, say the word, and isolate those sounds? F-R-O-G, frog. B-E-D, bed. J-A-M, jam. And there are so many resources, fun games that you can be playing every single day to build this critical skill. Something really simple. In the mornings, you could say, can you go grab for me your shoes? What am I saying? Shoes, well done, go grab them. Or, can you grab me a fork? Yes, a fork, superstar. So this doesn't even need to be any kind of specified learning activity. You build this into the everyday, and it is the absolute foundation of reading, because when your child reads a word on the paper for the first time, they're going to see those letters, they're going to separate them into sounds, push them together to say the word. This is the foundation of reading. Often parents jump ahead to teaching letters, but this is where you need to start. Once you start working on the skill of blending, and that's really embedding itself, the next thing you want to do is work on introducing the sapin letters. Now, these are the first 6 letters that we introduce to children. And the reason we introduce these letters first and we don't work in alphabetical order is because these letters are high frequency. They appear really often in our reading and in our writing. And there is a whole ton of words that your child can start reading just from knowing the sounds of these 6 letters. So again, these are resources from my various reading courses, but you would show your child that letter. You could write it on a piece of paper, write it on a whiteboard, whatever. You could then find things around the house that start with that sound, and it's much easier for children to start this with words that begin with the sound rather than words that contain the sound. So like socks, soap, sandals, slippers, and you could gather those things and then see if your child can say the word, hear the sound, and place it next to the letter written down. So you would introduce all of these letters, and then once your child is secure in the sounds of all of these letters and you're still working on the skill of blending, you then move on to word reading. And this is where those two skills of blending and we've taught those letter sounds come together, and it's really quite exciting. Again, these are resources from my various reading courses, but what your child would do is put a finger, actually in the image here, I'll quickly show you, I'll zoom in. You'll see that what I've done is I've got some Play-Doh, I've rolled it up in a ball and I've placed it on the little dots. So this child is going to push those Play-Doh dots, and what will happen is she's going to say the sound each time she pushes one. So we are incorporating a sensory element into this activity, which helps children understand and learn much better. So your child could also just go tin, and then you would want them to be able to match that to the correct picture. So we're also building in the understanding element of what we are reading. So that is reading words. And once we have learned to read words, we can work in reverse where we're building words. So we've got a picture here of, let's choose this one, pin. Can your child say the word pin? What's that first sound you can hear? Can we find it? Yes. What's that next sound? In. Well done. Let's find it. What's that last sound in pin? Yes, it's a n. If your child is ready for writing, they could have a go at writing it in. Oh, I've got the wrong. It's too thick, isn't it? N. If they're not ready, you could write it for them. Or you could use post-it cards where they build that word. There's lots of different activities here. And here we've got another activity. So it's pointing to the pip, p. Your child could identify those letters and then they could have a go at writing it in as well. And then you can see it's in action here in my Read With Me program. As we move down the reading journey, we continue with this same methodology. We then move on to heart words. Now, heart words are those words that don't conform to that first layer of code, but we need children to know these words because we can't really read sentences without knowing them. So what we do is we pop a little heart above the bit of the word or the letter that isn't conforming in the way that we would expect it to. It's not making its most common sound. And so children understand that letters can make multiple sounds. So here we're teaching I, and obviously we have taught this as I. But when it's on its own, we say I. So children can have a go at doing the worksheet. They can colour it in. They can add it into a sentence. I am big. They can locate it. I. They can have another go at writing it. And then in my courses, I always give children a whole ton of sentences, and you get a lot more than these, in order to be able to really hone in and practice that skill. So they're beginning to read sentences now with that heart word in there. So and they're gaining that excitement and that experience of reading a sentence. They're now applying what they have learned. So you can see that every step builds on what has previously been taught. And then finally, we move on to sentence reading. So this is where we're incorporating everything that we have taught so far, and we are reading sentences, which is so exciting. But the key thing here is because they're short sentences and we build them up and they're longer as we go through the reading programs, is that it's less overwhelming than a book. I find that so often we start children reading a whole book and that can feel so incredibly overwhelming. But these short sentences, and often I like to just cut them up. So you just, let's read one sentence. And if you're reading one sentence a day, I promise you're going to see such incredible results, and you'll be able to increase that over time. So again, you'll see that where I've got a heart word, let's change that. Where I've got a heart word, I have got the little heart indicating here that is making a different sound to what we would expect it to do. We've then got full stops in here, capital letters, and children are beginning to read sentences, which is so incredibly exciting. And that is how you get your child reading with just teaching the skill of blending and those first 6 letters. Now that you've gained clarity on the essential building blocks of early learning, it is time to turn knowledge into action. And through my extensive work, research, and collaboration with the UK government, I've created the Readiness for School programme, a comprehensive system that ensures you as parents have everything you need to harness the critical 0 to 5 developmental window. And this step-by-step programme builds the foundational skills your child needs to thrive in school and beyond, including early reading skills. So taking them from knowing nothing to blending all the way through to reading their very first sentences, maths mastery, so having a deep understanding of numbers from 1 to 10, name writing and recognition, strengthening fine motor skills for writing readiness. And typically this is priced at £97, but for the next 72 hours only, you can grab this at the price of £24 because I want every child to be able to access these incredible resources and build those foundations. The choices that you make now will shape your child's academic and personal success for years to come. So enroll now and take the first step towards unlocking your child's full potential, and let's begin this journey together. Your child's success story starts here, and I will see you inside.